Isaiah 1:19. Im tovu ushmatem, tuv haaretz tochelu. Now let's translate. Im, this is a conditional sentence. Your im here is a little bit different than what we saw in verse 18, in that this is being translated if. So if you are willing, and we're going to also use the if for here. So if you hear, or if you will hear, the good of the land you will eat. So putting all that together, if you are willing and you hear, or you're willing to obey. Remember, hear doesn't always mean in Hebrew just an auditory experience, but this is hearing by obedience. So if you're willing, if you hear, then, the then is kind of implied here, then you will eat the good of the land. A couple of features I'll point out. Your first verb and your third verb are both call imperfects, to MP. Your first verb is coming from ava. You notice that the third letter is weak. It drops out right here, but the form is fairly typical for that word, so you should be able to recognize that. You notice your first letter is also weak, which is why your vowel pointings here are a bit different than what you would normally be used to. Same thing is true over here with tochelu. Your first letter is weak, which means your vowel pointing is going to be a little bit different than what you would be normally used to, but this form is one that you do see sometimes, so you should be familiar with it. Your second verb, ushmatem, this is a call vav consecutive perfect to MP, and this form is exactly what you would expect to see in that conjugation. So that shouldn't cause you any trouble there either. I do want to point out right here, tuv haaretz. Normally you'd see a phrase like this at the end of a verb. So you will eat, what will you eat? Well, you eat the good of the land. In this case, it's fronted before the verb, and that puts some emphasis on that phrase, the good of the land. It's the good of the land that you will eat, but only if you are willing and if you properly hear the word of the Lord. Now I want you to keep this verb right here in mind, because we're going to see it in verse 20 coming up again.